welcome to the Cannabis Review. I'm delighted to be joined on this episode by Heidi Whitman. She's the Global Strategy Director for Avida Global. Heidi, how are you keeping?
Very well, thank you, Owen. And you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much for being on the show. Those of you who don't know Heidi, she's got an esteemed career so far in the industry and has now moved on to one of the top companies in the global sphere. So Heidi, do you want to give everybody a little overview of how you got to where you are at Avida at the moment?
Yes, absolutely. Back in 2017, my husband and I started researching going into natural health, holistic means, medicines, and fell into the CBD world while visiting America. I am American, but I do live here in the UK. So we spent 7 months doing due diligence in the States, looking to see what was working, what wasn't, understanding the market as best as we could, with the mindset to bring something back to the UK. And our desire was to provide a product for people and for pets, because that is part of my background, technically, was in veterinary medicine. So we created a brand called the Naked Leaf, brought it back to the UK, and successfully started trading for people over here as well as for pets and people in America, back in America. And our product and our brand and our company was acquired by a different group that was looking for a vertical operation. So we spent our time doing all of that type of transitional work, which led me into a wonderful experiential education in the marketplace, in the CBD realm, and also started getting my passion for medical marijuana, which was the next phase that I wanted to enter. And that's when I met the group at Avida Global, who are producing the highest quality medicinal cannabis. And that was something I really was excited about. And we melded forces and joined together just this past June. Oh, I think you are on mute, sorry.
I'm still muted there. So yeah, so that's great. It's you kind of have the expertise from the veterinary side coming in to talk about the subject. It's not somebody just coming in to set up a CBD company. Can you tell me what attracted you to Avida Global? What's their story like? Can you give maybe the viewer an overview of who Avida Global are and what their purpose is?
Yes, absolutely. Well, partially because I have been a cannabis, medical cannabis patient myself in the past, it is really important to understand where your product comes from. And I think that is something that the consumer and the patients don't have a lot of access to knowing, because there's so much out there. And what I liked about Avida Global was their transparency and their traceability to product. So what's really unique about Avida is this is a group that had an idea to create this high quality medical cannabis with 3 factors in mind: the location, the people, and the process around it. And so what they have done uniquely is they've set up in Colombia, an area called La Joya de Iberico in Cesar, which is northeast Colombia, and it's at the foot of the Andes Mountains. So they're looking at doing a sustainable, natural growing method by being environmentally sound and carbon neutral along the way. So this was a 3-year process, and I've joined in at a very critical time where everything is now moving. And what was nice about this is that being that cannabis plants are like a sponge, whatever the environment is grows into them. So they grow hydroponically in purpose-built greenhouses. So it's akin to laboratory conditions. And I found that to be really unique, being that it's outdoors, hydroponically grown, but covered. And with the optimum 13 hours of daylight, consistent temperatures of 26 to 34 degrees, they can actually harvest about 5 to 6 crops a year. And when there's a limitation for patient access due to supply, this to me was incredibly interesting, because now we can produce a medicinal cannabis that can actually reach those who need it because of our ability to harvest in these conditions. So although they have these 6 harvests per year, they micro harvest every 3 days. And watching these controlled batches, making sure that the epigenetics are being taken in consideration, that all the data that's being collected is shared with our biodiligence team in Israel. Everything they're doing has such concise and precise measures that the quality consistency will then follow, and it's proven to be. And so I think all of the efforts that they have made so far have been unbelievably exciting. They are in an EU GMP track, and that should be coming in at the end of this quarter. And that will give us the ability to focus on all of the markets, including not only just Colombia, but also the neighboring South American countries like Brazil, Uruguay, Chile, Mexico, and of course, Europe. So that is part of why I was fascinated with their process. But the other part is the local impact that they have. So they harness almost all of the local skill sets that they can. So they work really carefully with the Ministry of Justice for security on site, but they also work with the National Training Service, which is called SENA down in Colombia, and they have 60 employees and recent grads that work on the agricultural medicinal side, joining Avida, and 60 of them are now, but we hope to actually employ about 600 people when it's all the 40 hectares are filled with our facility. And I love the fact that they also have 3/4 of their employees are female, because they're trying to keep this ratio to give opportunities to the local women who are usually disadvantaged in terms of employment opportunities in the region. And I felt that was something that was really close to my heart. So there's a lot of ethics behind this company, as well as the careful genetics being followed, with the group of people that are involved. We have the top agronomists, some of the best cultivators, a lot of people that used to work in pharma. So the skill sets are there. And then, of course, we do have a biodiligence team in Israel that monitors all of the genetics, all of the data, and keeps us on track to making sure that we're ever evolving, and that whatever strains we are growing can complement the necessary medical conditions that could benefit from these strains. And then one other little point, if you don't mind me saying, is that they also have a foundation where, coming from a background where I worked in a lot of nonprofit as a volunteer, Avida Global set up a foundation to bring back to give back to the local country with a focus on education, local enterprise, environment, and arts and culture. So they've been working this past year a lot with the pandemic and assisting those in the area that were suffering from food shortages and job shortages, of course, but they also are looking to promote transportation options for the local children who tend to walk 5K to school every day. So I found that to be a really nice component of what Avida does.
So that's basically, the guys have got the model in place where the price per gram grown in Colombia is going to be a specific attractive part of the company. You've got the medical research side of Israel, which are the world leaders in this, is the other attractive side. So the components for that company seem to be put in position. And then the final piece for me is always equity partners. Who stands to make from the company? If the company's in a territory, are they giving back to the people in that environment? So you seem to be doing all three of the right things for a company to do to make it on a global scale. And I think what you're going to see over time now is the acquisitions and mergers of a lot of companies, and you're going to be left with let's say the top 5 to 10 companies who, if they haven't got that price point per gram, they're going to be blown out of the water. If they haven't got the medical research and the top kind of tier research that goes along with it, which kind of brings me on to my next topic, which is fostering relationships with universities for research and development. You guys seem to be pretty good at this. Is there something that you'd give any information to the audience on this side of the industry?
Absolutely. Well, one of our chief medical officer happens to be Dr. Francisco Cabal, and he was one of the leading Colombian trauma doctors. And what he's doing right now in Colombia, he has started a 3-phase clinical trial, and he's working on 4 aspects, which is trauma, post-traumatic stress and anxiety, combined cancer, as well as multiple sclerosis, which is very close to a lot of our hearts because we've had several different family members suffering from it, as well as Dr. Cabal. So that trial is underway. That is based out of his eye care clinics, which are in Colombia. So it gives us patient access, doctor access, and he can keep his finger on the pulse of all of the processes. Once again, this began the beginning of this year, so it's a 3-phase, 3-year trial. But we also have fostered very close relationships with universities and academies locally in Colombia, but also in Israel. As I mentioned, we have a form of a biodiligence group over there that is keeping an eye on everything we're doing and has been advising from the very beginning. So they also are looking at all the genetic aspects and pharmaceutical aspects of each strain that we are working with, making sure that we have the proper delivery systems, also creating new delivery systems that are unique to the marketplace, which will be released once we finalize everything with them. We have the Multidisciplinary Center at Hebrew University in Jerusalem and the Techion are 2 of those locations that we're working with. And also the, understanding the new cannabis molecules and how the combination of these molecules and the entourage effect can work with different medical conditions. So these all keep us up to date with the latest developments. We are working hard to make sure that we've got as much clinical background on our strains to be able to provide to prescribers, to give them the confidence, the assurance that everything we're doing is copacetic with what they are looking to prescribe for their patients.
Okay, amazing. The last topic that I want to touch on, and it's something I know you're going to be an expert on, and I've had a good few people kind of ask me about this. We've heard of a lot of companies doing CBD for different pets. Can you talk about CBD for horses, the benefits that it does or does not bring, and how it should be administered, and maybe what the recommended dosage for a horse would be? Because I know there's a good few interested people who watch the show who like hear this information.
Yes, absolutely. I have a lot to say on this subject. It is something that's close to my heart. I'm an equestrian. I have been my entire life. And working with horses has been something that's been not only a passion, but creating a hemp-based product for horses was something that I wanted to set out to do, and I did. That was with the Naked Leaf company. Right now in the UK, CBD for pets and animals in general is not permitted. However, and I'm disclosing all of this information, not being a veterinarian, I can give you some information on how I have seen it work well in the United States. And what I hope to see is the acceptance leading across Europe and the UK. Other countries are starting to look at it as well. I think it's becoming a hot topic, and there's a lot of owner of horses, equestrian demand for their equine partners to have ability to recover while in motion. And that is what CBD does for horses. Just like us, they are mammals, they have an endocannabinoid system. When you give a horse CBD, they are all sensitive creatures, as large as they are. I always deem them like butterflies. And so when you give anything to a horse, it can affect them quite quickly. And CBD is no different. However, there's different types of administration. I will give some examples just of my own product that we created. It was a pellet form, so it was an ingestible. Each pellet had a 1% content of CBD in it, so therefore a scoops, that we had, which was equivalent to about a tablespoon, was about 75 milligrams, and it was for an average size horse, 500 kilos, 550 kilos, it was about a 300 milligram dose that seemed to work best. You're also dealing with a very long gut. So when you're dealing with anything ingestible, you've got to remember a horse is built a little differently than a dog. So I have had amazing anecdotal real world evidence showing that with this type of dosage, or 300 milligrams of CBD product for a 550 kilo horse, there was a reduction in anxiety, a reduction in arthritic a range of motion that was increased. The arthritis pain subsided, and when pain subsides, a horse will eat better, like any of us. If you're in pain, you don't want to eat. If a horse doesn't eat, they can also have GI issues. So it was very important that if you have an animal, you want to treat them like a horse with something to reduce their pain. It will help them create their regular system functions, as well as eating and defecating, etc., which is really important in the horse world. I've also had great success with topical products. So if there is a horse with swelling in the leg, there's no need for that edema to go down the leg. There's a way to actually reduce that swelling with a CBD topical solution. And I personally loved our liniment gel. That is something that was something we created, and it worked a long time to get that water-soluble nanomolecular CBD liniment gel. And it's helped horses, like I said, with my own experience as well as our customers in the past. And I think if it's in every equestrian's toolbox, you don't have to aim for those butte type drugs, drugs that can actually on a long-term basis affect the animal's well-being. The other aspect of CBD for horses, it is not permitted in competition animals. So there is a withdrawal period for everything. Be sure if you're going to be using CBD for horses that whatever product you're buying has that withdrawal period noted on the product, or contact the company itself so that you are not competing unknowingly having cannabinoids in your horse's body so that you get disqualified. So that is something.
Can I just ask you a question there? So CBD is illegal for any racehorse?
It would, if they're racing, yes, that is true. And I believe the only horses that are allowed to take CBD and I could be wrong here, are polo horses, but for the most part, racing, FEI, USEF, show jumping, and the racing associations do not permit cannabinoids in horses. However, if there's a withdrawal period, using them while not racing and monitoring them is really important. So you would want to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing. There's no cross-contamination within your yard, and that your horses are getting exactly what they should. You need almost a groom-proof system so that in these sensitive tests that they provide these horses at times, you make sure that there's nobody touching CBD and then touching another horse. You just never know. And some of these animals have been, training for so long, you wouldn't want someone to be disqualified accidentally. So I do believe, though, these are the athletes. Why should we prevent athletes from not getting the chance to recover naturally while in motion when we personally as athletes get to recover while we're in motion? They're doing the same. And if anything, they're then put in a box and told to stand still, which isn't always very good. So I believe that it should be necessary. I've spoken in Washington, D.C. about this to the heads of the Olympic committees, as well as USEF and FEI. This was back in 2018. And even then they were skeptical, but interested. And they agreed with me that it does work. It's just a matter of rewriting rules. And sometimes it takes a lot of effort. And so therefore, it's a matter of us, those are passionate, those equestrians, the trainers, to push the veterinary medical directorate to maybe think differently about this, and hopefully we can allow animals to receive what they should receive just as much as we can here in the UK.
Amazing. It's been a hugely informative chat, Heidi. I hope we can get you back on again before the end of the year and go over a lot more topics, because we've got so much more to discuss, but unfortunately we keep the show to 15 minutes. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great show. I hope we can get to chat again very soon.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
See you in the next show, guys. Bye-bye.